only regret is I wish I had done it sooner because I feel like I got
Right.
into it late in the game. I'd always wanted forever, to have my own business.
Right.
Just never pushed myself to do it. Before I was an appraisal manager, I was the highest paid appraiser in the nation. My husband was the one who actually kind of pushed me also to take this step. In that 30 days, I turned his business around to going from the brink of bankruptcy to paying off his bills, having money in the bank. And then when I told Jeff about that, he was like, why aren't you doing that for us?
Amazing.
And I was like, I don't know. I mean, I guess I should. It's a journey, and everything that's kind of gets compiled and put in this later file, that is going to come up and you use it. I think you have to go through those trials and tribulations
Yes.
and successes and failures because it all shapes everything.
How difficult is it to hire talent in the industry? Super difficult.
It's ridiculously hard. I notice with younger people is they don't realize you can make really good money in a body shop.
You want to hit the ground, how to be a great communicator, or you know what I mean? How to lead
Yeah.
by example, all those soft skills that you need in a business, right?
I'll give you a perfect example is my sister Tolly. She's our bookkeeper, HR, whatever else. We don't know what her title is. It's stressful. So yeah, I'm glad I didn't have, little ones to worry about, during this time.
Yeah.
One of the secrets to being successful, you know, uh, in a body shop is having really good estimators who can write the hell out of a repair plan.
Yeah.
We're an advocate for our customers.
All right, here we are. Hey, Thirsty Coconuts. On today's episode, we sit down with the incredibly driven and down to earth Renee, owner of Advanced Auto Body, a trusted family run body shop serving the Bay Area in Martinez, California. With over 30 years of legacy in the auto repair industry, Advanced Auto Body is far more than your average repair shop. They've built a reputation on craftsmanship, integrity, and customer first values. Renee took over the business during the turbulence of COVID, a bold move that speaks volumes about her resilience, vision, and faith in the power of quality service. What makes Renee's story even more compelling is her background in insurance, a career that laid the groundwork for her transition into business ownership. Today, we'll uncover what it really took for her to leave a stable job, embrace risk, lead through a crisis, and thrive in a male dominated industry. If you're someone with a dream stuck between where you are and where you want to be, this episode is for you. Renee, welcome to Thirsty Coconut. So good to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Really appreciate you taking the time, actually, because I know how really busy you are to, sort of sit down and talk to Thirsty Coconuts in the show.
Absolutely.
Um, what I wanted to do was maybe start off with if you could take us back to life before Advanced Auto Body. What were you doing in the insurance world? And what was the aha moment that made you sort of think about that breaking point that made you want to leave employment and run your own business? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So I actually, so when I was in my last job was at Esurance and position was an appraisal manager. So, I started out as an appraiser and then I ended up, when I left, I was a manager of the appraisers in the Bay Area. So, it was fine. It was easy, honestly, just because I'd done it for so long.
Right.
I'd always wanted forever, to have my own business.
Right.
Just never pushed myself to do it.
Right.
There was always excuses or, well, some of those excuses were 2 kids. You
Yeah,
know?
for sure.
So naturally, timing was really perfect actually,
Yeah.
when it did happen. But and it's ironic because I kind of was forced to make a decision in 2020. So
Right.
in May of 2020, smack dab in the middle of COVID, um, Esurance announced, or Allstate owns Esurance. They announced that they were going to be doing their nationwide reduction in force or layoff. There's like three different options that they were going to give a, a lucky person, or persons.
Right.
So there were groups. So anyhow, I kind of knew I would be part of that,
Right.
just because I was the highest paid. Before I was an appraisal manager, I was the highest paid appraiser in the nation. So it's a big target, on your
Yeah.
back. So,
Right.
um, yeah. So, and I just kind of felt, well, maybe this is the time. But
Right.
anyhow, so my husband was the one who actually kind of pushed me also to take this step. So
Yeah.
but to back up a little, 2019 and 2020, beginning of 2020, I was helping out a friend who has a body shop here, somewhat local to us. And it was not doing very well at all. He was like on the brink of bankruptcy.
Oh.
I was an appraiser, and I came in to his shop and just
Mm.
started talking to him and was like looking at his estimates going, dude, this is why you're not doing well. Like, who's
Right.
writing your estimates for you? And he's like, oh, I just take what the insurance company gives me.
Yes.
Oh my God. So long of the short is I told him, give me a month. Let me
Right.
write estimates, communicate with the insurance companies. It was just him running, the whole shop by himself.
Uh-huh.
Um, and in that 30 days, I turned his business around to going from the brink of bankruptcy to paying off his bills, having money in the bank, and he was just, grateful.
Oh,
So I did that for a while, and then when I told Jeff about that, he was like, "Well, why aren't you doing that for us?"
amazing.
And I was like, I don't know. I mean, I guess I should.
Yeah.
So I knew that I was going to be part of that riff, and I've just been in this industry for so long. It's it's you get comfortable, and that's where I was. I was just comfortable.
Right.
So I it, in November, I knew that's when they were going to start announcing that. So during that time, from like May till, I don't know, July, August, I started looking for body shops because my
Right.
choices were go back to work for another insurance company,
Uh-huh.
go to a body shop, and I didn't want to do either.
Yeah.
So I just literally looked onto Biz Buy Sell for businesses
Yep.
and found this body shop in Martinez. And visited a couple of times, and the time we lived in Discovery Bay, which is about maybe 35, 40 miles away
Yeah.
uh, from the shop. But it's on Highway 4, which is ridiculous. Like the traffic is just ridiculous. So it was a long commute.
Yeah.
So when I first, went and saw the shop, I was like, I can't do it. The commute's just going to kill me.
Mm.
But I ended up going back, to it, and made a deal with the guy, got a great deal. And during that time, I got ready. I probably got all of my licensing, insurance. There's a lot that goes into when you buy a business.
Yeah.
No idea of, and there is no roadmap to this is what you need if when you open up a body shop. There's
No.
nothing. You Google it, nothing. I asked people, they're like, well, they couldn't remember. And
Right.
so every step of the way, I had to figure out, and that, oh no, you got to do this first, and then I would have to go back a few steps, and,
Yes.
but in about 3 months, I was able to get everything ready. And then in October, we signed papers. The person that I bought the shop from
Right.
November, they let me go from
Oh,
Allstate. Yeah. And we opened the doors December 7th of 2020.
amazing.
And
That's quite a journey that you went through. In while you were in insurance and you sort of thought about that, you suspected that you would be among the group that were going to be selected for, was it, I guess, being laid off or to be
they called
furloughed?
it a reduction in force. It was their way of they just minimize. They do this every few years, if not, more often. Um, what I've noticed is that they do that and then they bring in cheaper,
Yes.
staff.
Yeah, yeah. So it's
So
effectively a restructure. So
pretty much, they had different names of it. Some people, got actually laid off. Some people, was like with me, or a reduction in force, like they were just eliminating that position.
right.
Uh, and then I forgot what the other one was. But yeah, I was part of that, and it ended. But if it didn't happen, I wouldn't have the shop.
Yeah, yeah.
You
It's
know, it forced me to make a decision and get off my ass.
yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
yeah.
I mean that's exactly right. You can swear, you can say whatever you like on this show. This is an adult show, so it's
Okay.
it's perfectly fine. And I mean, I guess it was almost a blessing in disguise, wasn't it? That actually happened to you.
Absolutely.
It
Yes, for
yeah.
sure.
It's crazy that COVID has driven many people to just make those huge decisions about their lives and make you sort of sit
Right.
back and go, I don't even know, is this actually the right thing for me now? Like, like we wouldn't ordinarily have done that outside of COVID, I think. Would you agree?
No, it's
Would
a
you
lot of
agree?
time to think.
Yeah. Yeah,
You're
that's true.
sitting in your house.
And you were you working from home during that time? I mean, COVID was fairly, I mean, it was really kind of March of that year, wasn't it? So between March and
Yes.
November,
Mhm.
were you working from home as well,
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
had you
they
been
could. I mean, I worked from home anyhow because, my employees were in the field. So, I
yeah,
worked from home for the last probably year or so before that. Um,
yeah,
and then but, during that time, I was home, but I was helping my friend at his body shop
yeah,
too.
of course, I
So
understand. And so if I think about when you were at the insurance during in your time during the insurance in the insurance space, sorry, did that did a lot of the skills that you learned there kind of shape the way that you operate the business today? I imagine, I mean, facing into people, dealing with, customers or stakeholders. Do you think a bit of what you'd gone through in the insurance world, sort of transitioned into your business world as well?
yeah, for sure. So, I mean, if I go back, before I worked for the insurance companies, because there was two different ones, but before that, I worked at another body shop for 15 years. Started out as a receptionist, and then worked my way up to managing a second shop that he opened. And I mimic the way that shop ran just because I
Yeah.
loved it. He treated his people well, uh, and quality first, and that's the advice that he gave me when I bought this shop. When I reached out to him, and he said, no matter what you do, always keep the quality.
Yeah.
Don't sacrifice the quality, because once you do, you're just like everybody else.
Right.
You know, there's nothing that sets you apart. So that really shaped me more on, how I would run the business.
Yes.
However, being on the insurance side, you know, has helped immensely because I I know the ins and outs.
Right.
I know, as being in management, I know what the inside adjusters
Yeah.
are expected to do. I know what the appraisers are expected to do. I know a lot of the policy. So a lot of appraisers now, or adjusters, they basically, don't think that body shop people know this.
Yes.
And because I do know things, it's like, oh crap, I guess we can't get over on that one. And I studied the Department of Insurance regulations. And so I use that, to my benefit and to our benefit at the shop. So I mean, it's tough. They still fight with you, but at the same time, it's all about relationships with me, whether it's with your customers or with the appraiser that's coming in or the vendor on the phone, whatever. It's like everybody has a job to do, and we just want to get this one file done, this one card done. How everybody has their role. If everybody just does, what they're supposed to be doing, and just realize that that person has a job to do too, it's that's what, for me, that's what it's about, is just coming to, a resolution to keep it moving.
That is such an amazing insight because, what you've shared is you've taken the experience that you built through the body shop as a receptionist and sort of fully understood what that meant. If, for example, like you, it's almost like you packed those skills away for another time without even realizing that you're going to use it down the line. Like you'd essentially stored it
Sure.
in your memory bank, thinking, okay, well, this is stuff, this is really important. Like having that having the ability to do that, number one, is incredible, and then having the insight of actually working on the administrative not the administrative, but that other insight to, the appraisal side is also so important. You've had the back end and the front end experience over, I don't know, 25-year period, which is really primed you for owning your business. And then, but on top of that, you're also talking about the ability to be able to communicate with different people. You fully understand that, you know what, I'm not going to take this personally. This is actually just a business, and it's a job that everybody's going to get done, right? And that's
Hmm.
something I guess comes with experience and a long line of just sticking to what you've done over the years and not really jumping the queue, if I can term it that, not really necessarily jumping the queue to want to sort of you know fast forward your life to where you actually want to be. There's something to be said about going through the motions of building out that experience. If I think
You have
about, so,
to.
Thirsty Coconut is all about inspiring our younger generation. Now, if I think about those people that are coming out of, say, high school, or, sometimes you don't even want to do high school. You just want to get straight into the work industry. You just want to get in there and have a job. So for those
Right.
who are in high school, uncertain about their careers, uncertain about what they want to do, or even those who are just finishing high school, not sure if they want to go study beyond, do tertiary study, or sort of college or university.
Hmm.
What would you say to those people? I guess when you're thinking about everything that you've gone through, would you have any sort of advice or tips about, because I know,
So it's so sadly, this industry is almost a dying breed, because it's blue collar. It's the technician role, bodyman, painter, prepper, um, even estimators. There's the pool of them are shrinking.
hmm,
So finding technicians, especially, it's really hard, because the really good ones, are about to retire, or the ones. So it's rare to kind of find a younger person who wants to get into the industry. They either, have loved cars and they love working on them, and that's how they kind of get into it, or maybe they fall into it, where like their parents owned a shop and that's just, what they've known.
yeah,
But, I actually just hired, a 20-year-old. He's like 4 days away from the same birthday as Nico.
right,
And so it's interesting to see, he's got the motivation, he's good,
yeah,
you know, I asked him the other day, what made you get into this? And he said that he's just always liked cars, and so he was going to go through, they have trade schools. He was going to go through one of those. And then I guess some of his friends told him, the best way to experience it is to get, hands-on experience, to go to work at a body shop, as like a detailer. And
Right.
that is, that would be my advice, honestly,
Yeah.
is wherever you go, don't think you're just going to walk in and be a manager.
Right.
Like, I think that's selfish for one, because there's a lot of people who have been, working their way up towards that position
Yeah.
too. And it's just unrealistic because you need to know, as far as I'm concerned, especially for where I'm at, to buy a shop. I think we've only been successful just, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons is because I started out as a receptionist, and then I
Yes.
worked my way up, to office manager. Then I was writing estimates, and then I ended up being a manager, and then I went to work for insurance. And
Yes.
like you said, you have it's a journey, and
Yeah.
everything that's kind of gets compiled and put in this later file, that is going to come up, and you use it.
Yeah.
Um, so I would just say be patient. You don't have to have everything right now. I mean, every situation is different. Like maybe somebody can't be that patient because they need to pay bills or whatever. So
Yeah.
I will say my plug, which is the other um, thing that I noticed with younger people, is they don't realize you can make really good money in a body shop.
Yes.
Like they have no idea. Like a
Yes.
body man, a good body man, journeyman level, can make like 200 grand a year.
That's amazing.
Crazy, right? Like nobody knows that.
No.
Same thing for a painter,
Yeah.
but I think, especially with this younger generation, it's the tech world has been pushed so much,
Yeah.
so I'm hoping that, it comes back around to, you know, kind of blue collar work. Like we still need those out there,
100%.
and so, and it's actually very satisfying because bodymen and painters, they're artists. So it's
Yes.
kind of not, what I mean? They're sculpting,
Yes.
they're painting.
Yes.
So it's not just, monkey wrenching and working on cars. They're very proud of their work.
Yes.
All of my employees, when it's the finished product, it's like, we love reading reviews, and we love seeing people pick up their cars and they're just like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. And, it it's very satisfying. So yeah, definitely, be patient, pay your dues,
Yes.
um, and and don't discount, the positions that you think are not up your alley, because I fell into this just looking for a job when I was 19,
Right.
became a receptionist at this body shop and never left. I mean,
Wow.
I shouldn't say never. I mean, I was there for 15 years,
Yes.
starting at that same body shop.
Yes. That
So, and
is,
then you just progress. There's so many different, routes that you can take from working at a body shop.
it's
If
such
you're an estimator, there's different estimating positions at different, industries. So I think it's a great industry to get into.
I love all of what you've said, only because it's in the auto body industry, as you say, has skills that are that are a dying art, and really should be preserved because cars are never going to go away, right?
Right? It's crazy.
And I think it's such an understated world in the sense that it's such an understated world in the sense that people don't actually really consider what career options are actually available in your industry.
Hmm.
There's the painter guy, there's the receptionist, there's there's a lot of even back end work that exists in the auto body world. Like it's not just about the knowledge industry. So in San Francisco, you've got a lot of people that have moved, or there are many young people who are trying desperately to get into that tech industry and the knowledge worker industry, which is good. I mean, they have their place, right? I mean, technically you moved into a sort of a knowledge based world after you'd, sort of done your stint as a receptionist in the auto body world by moving into insurance. But as
Mm-hmm.
you say, like there are many other career options within the auto body
Right.
slash automotive industry that
Mm-hmm.
young people coming out of high school, or even if it's a decision, we do tend to sort of judge those who don't end up finishing school as people that are, sort of not necessarily those that you want to employ. But you know what? Sometimes you're so talented that you can actually go straight out into employment. Ideally, you want to finish school, but it's such an industry that just doesn't get the appreciation and the love that it really deserves. And I do agree with you that there's nothing wrong with working with your hands. We need more people in that industry. It's no different to the construction industry,
Correct.
where you need
Right.
more people building homes, you need more people on the tools. That's how the world and the economy thrives, because you've
Right.
got the knowledge industry, you've got those that are working with their hands, and that's exactly what we need in this world, right? It's sort of
Yeah.
should be given
Somebody's
equal
got to
weight
do
of
it.
yeah, I mean, it should be given equal weight of importance. One
Right.
can't do without the other. It's almost like the left hand and the right hand.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is just exposure. You
Right.
know, like I said, people just don't understand. I even had a couple that came in maybe a year or so ago, and we just got to talking, and they said, my grandson, he's just out of high school, and this might be great for him to, maybe start in. Do you have like a helper position or anything like that? And we just got to talking more, and when I told them, what a very good bodyman can make, they were just like amazed and went, "What? No way!" And so it just, if they don't know, then like why, it kind of just gets thrown out the door and not even thought of.
Yeah.
But I think definitely people need to know more. Even estimators, you can make great money.
Right.
Great. It's it's like anything. It's how good you are.
Right.
If whatever you do, if you're going to be great at it, then you're probably going to make great money.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I mean, there's positions that top out. Obviously, but in industries where there's money to be had, a very good estimator, painter, technician, production manager. They have blueprinters.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different facets to the body shop world. I just think people need to know that they're there.
Yeah. And how difficult is it to hire talent in the industry? Super difficult.
It's ridiculously hard.
Right.
So it's I'm super impatient too.
Right.
Want everything now, you know. But this last December, we celebrated our 4-year anniversary.
Congratulations. It's
Thank
incredible.
you. In that 4 years, I don't want to exaggerate, but we probably went through like 30 people.
Yeah, the turnover.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. And it's really disheartening and that's where, I come back and say, is there just nobody left? You know?
Now we're having to
Did they
hire with
did they all
anyone
go and do different,
and n- and now we're having to
industries?
hire anyone with a pulse.
Right. Well, and I tried that, and I was, because the problem is, when you're the owner, it all comes down on you, and I'm not gonna
Absolutely.
fail. So in the shop, I was able to make it work here and there, with technicians. It you know it but it's hard to find not just the talent.
Yep.
Like we are heavily focused on our culture.
Yes.
So I don't care if you're the best technician out there. If you're going to be a dick, yeah, you're not going to
100%.
work here. You know,
Yes.
so that's what it is. Our motto is we all help each other.
Yeah,
If I'm out there sweeping the floors,
you're doing it
then
too.
yeah, you're doing it too, and you're gonna put some music on and dance to it too.
100%.
But so culture is huge. So finding that balance took me all of that 4 years. I
Yeah.
had finally had the last piece of the puzzle just hired, or two actually, this within the last month.
Yeah.
Finding those two persons, it was a godsend.
Yeah.
If when the work doesn't get done, at least on the office end,
Yeah.
I have to do it. So it was 12 to 15-hour days sometimes of just,
Oh,
doing it just to make sure that the business kept going.
yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, finding talent is hard. Finding talent that fits your culture is really hard too.
I mean,
You
I'm
know,
probably preaching to the converted here, but you can teach the skill in anyone, right? I mean, obviously there are specific skills that need to go through the years of experience, but for other things, you can teach that, but
yeah,
you can't teach someone to be to be a great employee, to be an honest person.
care,
You can't teach
care,
integrity. Like
period.
those values have to exist within an individual. They've got to bring that with them
Right.
because that is not something you can't always teach somebody that you want to hit the ground
Hmm.
how to be a great communicator, or you know what I mean, how to lead
Yeah.
by example, all those soft skills that you need in a business, right?
I'll give you a perfect example is my sister Tolly.
Yes.
So she when I first opened the business, she helped, she would come in and help out, in the office, a day or two here and there. And as we got busier, she helped out a little bit more. But she still worked at Southwest.
Right.
And so it was on her days off that she was able to, kind of help me out.
Yes.
And and then I just ended up asking her to I started teaching her how to write estimates. She had never had no kind of experience whatsoever.
Yeah.
But I just started teaching her how to write estimates. And about a year ago, I asked her to quit her job and come work full time for
Amazing.
me.
Amazing.
And it was hard for her because she had a lot of tenure with Southwest. And but she understood the value in her new career path and what it could do for her.
Yeah.
And she loves working with family. My Aunt Flo,
Yes.
she's our Aunt Flo. She's
Yes.
our bookkeeper, HR,
Ev-
whatever else.
oh,
We don't know what her title is. And Jeff is there, and then my sons are there,
yeah.
when they're around. So she loves, doing that too.
Yeah.
But on that subject, Tolly is freaking amazing now.
So cool. But
Yeah.
that's the power of being able to teach the skill, but
Yes.
you can't teach the honesty, the integrity, showing up on
No.
time every day.
Yeah.
You're not taking
Yeah.
the piss out of your employer,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I guess that also comes down to you being a great employer as well, which I imagine is not a difficult, sorry, not an easy thing to do, is showing up for your employees as well.
Yeah. It's not just because I mean, I've been a manager before.
Hmm.
It's a little different when you're an owner operator,
Yeah.
at least for me, because, I'm probably too nice.
Right.
I, you know, until I feel like I'm being taken advantage of, and
Yes.
then out comes the hatchet.
You move from one extreme to the other. There's no in
Yeah,
between.
exactly. So it's like, I've been nice this whole time, and I've kind of been warning you nicely, and that's
Yes.
it. Now you're gone. But I have learned to, kind of sit back and, still be a manager. But just setting those expectations is really what it is, hey, I don't care what the hell you do during the day as far as how you get your job done, just get it done. I don't want to micromanage you. I don't want to have to babysit you. Um, and just get your job done. You
That's
want to
it.
leave early? Okay. Is your job done? I don't care. Go ahead. So
Yeah.
and people appreciate that. But that was one of the things that I struggled with getting, you know, um, talent, the staffing is a lot of people take advantage of the kindness.
Yes.
And I'm not one to like, I'm not going to change being me. I am nice.
Yes.
I, I will give and give and give if I know that you're part of, our family,
Yes.
just how I am. So I'm not going to stop doing that. And if you're going to take advantage of it, there's no coming back from that. You know what I mean? Like there's no, oh, I'm sorry, or I'm going to work with this person to make it so they don't take advantage from here on out or change the way, I'm not going to start being mean or micromanaging because I don't want to get taken advantage of. No,
Yes.
it's not a good fit. You
Yeah.
know, be an adult and somebody's being nice to you, say thank you, but still work harder because I'm being nice to you.
Yes.
And that was, what I did struggle with before, and I thought I had to change too. And so I'm just really blessed and thankful now that the crew that I do have don't take advantage. They do just
Yes.
the opposite, and they appreciate and they work hard. And I mean, I'm talking like it's it's like what you see on TV where like these employees who are just there at all hours of the night, and and they they'll call you on the weekend and, hey, I just wanted to check in, and like that happens here now. And
So
so it
good.
can be done. And they are still out there. There's just not as many as I think.
All the things that you talk about around values is how you operate your business, not only with your employees, but obviously how that integrity that you put into the work that you produce out of your auto body shop. And then the whole piece around teamwork makes the dream work is just, exactly the reason why you trust people to get the job done. Like if they're efficient and they get the job done sooner than you expect, then go ahead, do what you need to do to kind of do other things in your day. I love that. So you opened up during COVID. What was that like that's a pretty intense time to open up, right? Like what was that experience like for you? Because obviously we were all in lockdown, and I don't want
Yeah.
to, if that's traumatic, I don't want to have to revisit that again, but can you,
I hope
well, I mean, seriously,
not.
to open up a business that is reliant on customers bringing in their cars and all that sort of stuff, that is like, if you think about it, it's a 1 in 100 year event, COVID, having to
Yeah.
open up a business and operate during that time. What was that like for you as a first time business owner?
So ironically, it was actually a good time to do it.
Really?
Yeah, because it was so new. I'd never had a business before. I don't know how to run a business.
Yes.
I was like, I knew the business, and I knew how to manage, and I knew how to manage a shop, but I've never run a business.
Yes.
It wasn't mine. So and the shop that I bought, our shop now, one of the reasons why I bought it was because I walked in and I said, "Hey, let me look at some of your estimates." And he was only doing maybe, I don't know, 20, $30,000 a month in sales. That's ridiculously low.
Yeah.
So I wanted to see his estimates. Um, so I was, just kind of browsing through a few, and it only took me a minute to go, yeah, yeah, I'm gonna make money here,
Really?
because they were so low. It's like one of the secrets to being successful, you know, uh, in a body shop is having really good estimators who can write the hell out of a repair plan.
Yeah.
If you know what you're doing, that's where your money's at. Some of the money, you need good techs,
Yeah.
but you need to know how to write a really good estimate, um, and try to get paid for everything that you do.
Right.
So when I saw that, I was like, yeah, this is it. And because the volume was so low at the time, I wasn't walking into this,
Ah,
you
yes.
know, this just chaos of
Yeah.
holy shit, I'm so busy. How do I, what do I do? You know what I
Yes.
mean? It was like literally five fucking cars in the shop.
Right. So that was kind of perfect for you, perfect way for you. That the volumes weren't so
Yeah,
high that it was overwhelming to have to deal with
to
that.
slowly ease into learning how to run this business.
Right.
And there was one employee. It was me, and he was the bodyman and the painter. He did everything in the shop because there's only five cars.
Yes.
Uh, but so it actually it worked out great because I could slowly learn how to run this business, and and then start out by getting accounts and building it up, and along the way of still learning like these curves that come out, you have no idea where they come from and how to deal with them, but that you just figure it out. So it was a good thing because I didn't have this you know shop that if I had walked into the shop that I have right now, I probably would have folded.
You might you might have second guessed your decision and gone, "Oh God, what have I
Yeah,
done?"
I mean, because right now, like we've been up and down, and it's such a crazy time, I think, in this world, honestly, right now. Like there's so
Yes.
many industries that are ridiculously slow, and
Right.
ours is one. But we're doing pretty well.
Yes.
But our highest month ever with the small crew that we have. I obviously have more than one employee right now,
There's
but is we had 307,000 in one month. So from
twenty,
I don't know
thirty thousand
about
dollars a month to
yeah
three.
from 20 to 30, then like our first month in business.
That is incredible.
Yeah, so if I had walked into buying that, it would be very chaotic, and I don't know if I would last. So it was a good thing.
Yeah, it was a bit of a blessing in disguise, hey? That's amazing. And so just thinking about your day these days, what does a typical day in the auto body industry look like for you?
So it's a little different today than it did
Yes.
before I finally, got my last estimator that I hired. He's been a godsend because he's been in the industry just as long as I have,
Yep.
and so he's got the knowledge, but he's also, he's a workhorse, and he'll do whatever he's a company guy.
Yeah.
So between him and Tolly, I mean, they make my life just so much easier now. So
Right.
much easier. Like, I don't even know what to do sometimes. I'm like,
Okay. What am I,
like,
what am I
"Is he
doing,
needing help?
guys?
What do you got going on today?"
I love I love
But
that.
and he's only been there for a few months now.
Yeah.
Um, so, but now I wanted, two people in the office, for the simple fact of, I need to do boss things. I need to be able to go out and, if not get new accounts, manage the existing accounts. And, uh, so that's what I'm getting back into doing, and then even as simple as like running reports and
Yes. Looking at the data.
like it, yeah, never had time to do that.
I
so
love that.
so now I'm able to focus more, on high level, thinking kind of, projects too. And, looking at my estimators and trying to better them. I sent them out an email the other day, um, and just praising them for one because they're doing an amazing job, and then but also letting them know that hey, I still want to challenge you guys. You guys do a
Yeah.
great job, but I want to challenge you because we will be the best service specialist is what I want to call it, because they do so much more than just estimate. You
Yeah.
know, I don't even have a receptionist.
Oh,
They're
wow.
answering the phones, they're greeting the customers,
Oh,
there's a lot that goes into that role.
yeah.
Um, and I understand that, but I want them to learn every aspect of that role.
Right.
A lot of the bigger shops kind of have individualized positions, and
Yeah.
for us, we're super efficient.
Mm.
The estimators are doing probably the job of maybe 2 or 3 people,
Yeah.
but, they work efficiently, they care, and and it's working.
Yeah.
So
So
so,
would you
yeah, but my day starts out at still about 5 o'clock in the morning. I still get up. I manage the shop still.
Okay.
So I run production. So I get up about 5 or 6, somewhere around there.
Mhm.
Uh, and I open up my laptop, have my coffee and pastry, and I go through, my day, and I set up basically a daily task for everyone.
Okay.
So I do that. I send it off to, my estimators so they can get ready because I roll in 8:30 to 9, somewhere on there. I try to get there at 8:30.
Yeah.
Uh, but and so when I do get in, they've already kind of updated the text, of, hey, here's your list for the day.
Yeah.
And then the goal is to, have a meeting. It was every morning, but that's kind of slacked off.
Right.
But it's just to basically go over that list and say, okay, hey, this is
Yeah.
what you've got going, blah
Yeah.
blah blah. 10 minutes in the morning, and then they're off and running.
Yeah.
And then I just go through the rest of the day, just making sure that the work is flowing through the shop.
Right.
You know, right now, Jeff is injured, I told you, so he normally does parts. And with him being out, I'm taking over, that role for him too. So I'm, receiving all of the parts and, getting them out to
Yeah.
the techs and whatnot. So making sure that they're right and that kind of thing. So yeah, I do that, and then it's home at a much more decent hour than
Yeah.
in the past.
Oh, wow. I love that. That is such an amazing milestone to reach because you're talking about now having the ability to step off the dance floor and kind of look at your business holistically.
Mhm.
Think about, what you guys might need to look at in the future, look at your data and statistics and kind of pivot where you need to go using those numbers,
Right.
and maybe potentially look at your P&L a little bit more closely and think about where you might need to make small adjustments to where
Mhm.
your spending is and the bottom line and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
And then you're also, I guess, because you've got people who are multi-skilled in many facets of your business, you're saying that you now have the ability, like you guys are super efficient, that it helps you to pivot and be a little bit more agile in the way you operate. But then
Right.
you as well, even though you come in and you go, oh, what am I going to do? Like the guys have got
Yeah.
it, these guys are good today. But you also think about, like, you have to think about those times where you have to plug in the gaps. So
Right.
if Jeff is out or if someone else is out, this goes back to you saying that it's good to learn every aspect because sometimes you do have to step in and
Right.
roll your sleeves up and get sort of hands on in the business, right? That's kind of the role that you get to play now that you've
Yeah.
done all of that, hard work and the fundamentals of learning through the last 4 years of being able to run a business is just
Mhm.
incredible. It's such an incredible thing. So, in terms of, I guess, your industry, how do you then maintain the integrity and the transparency and industry that, sometimes it gets a bad rap
Yeah.
from people? I know the automotive industry and auto body industry doesn't always, kind of get a good rap. You've got some really great shops out there, and then you got some really shit shops, right? So, how do
Yeah.
you guys maintain that, sort of transparency and integrity? Is it
Um, so so one thing is, again, it's, the proof is in the pudding.
right?
This is our final product, so that that's a given. You have to do quality work, period.
Yeah.
So that's just a staple. But I think what sets us apart is, you have those, what I call like the Walmarts of body shops. Those are your bigger multi-shop owner shops,
Right.
and they're just kind of run of the mill. It's get them in and out quick,
Right.
um, and the focus is not on the car or the customer; it's on the bottom line.
Yeah.
And, it going back to saying, I never had time to really look at my data and look at my P&Ls and even understand them. I never had the time to do that. I was just kind of, we got to get all of this done. And somehow, it worked. It was successful, but at the same time, I lost my train of thought now. What was I going with
It
that?
was it was
Edit
about
this.
it was about the Walmarts and the
Yeah, yeah.
kind of
So okay, so you have those, multi-shop owner, big like mega shops,
franchises.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking hundreds of shops. Um, but with us, it's much more personal.
Yes.
We talk to our customers, we explain the process, we explain, sometimes, the not so much their policy,
Yeah.
but what their policy might say. Hey, your policy probably states that you're gonna have to be okay with, aftermarket parts. um, you can do that, but just know that we're going to fight for those new OEM parts, and we do.
Yeah.
So we're an advocate for our customers, and we let them know, hey, let us be your advocate, because people don't realize, when you take your car in for repairs, there's a lot going on in the background, a lot of back and forth, a lot of conversations and emails and negotiating and fighting sometimes, with insurance companies.
Yeah.
And, they don't get to see that. We're very transparent about that. We CC our customers and say, hey, this is what your insurance company, is allowing.
Yeah.
Just so per the California Department of Insurance, blah, blah, whatever it is, I just want to make you aware, because the insurance companies want the customers to turn on us, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not have them think that the insurance is in the wrong.
Right.
So, and it happens sometimes,
Yes.
so we try to be transparent up front, right at the very beginning. Hey, just so you know, your insurance company, is probably going to try and steer you towards their contract repair shop.
Yes.
By law, you can choose whatever shop you want, even if it's not ours. Just know that that is your right. So we educate. That's our main focus right now, is educating our customers.
Right. Super important because it also makes for a smoother, more, for lack of a better term, pleasurable experience for your customers because they're bringing in a car. I mean,
Not a
obviously,
good. It's not a good time for them.
exactly, because they're bringing in
Like
their
you don't want
car.
to be there.
That's right. That's right. They would rather be driving their car, right? They'd rather have their car fully repaired and, once upon a time it was a beautiful looking car. It's probably looking better when it leaves your shop than it did when it
It
first came
does.
in.
It does. We love hearing that too. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's almost
So
like, oh man,
we
I've got a
do a
brand new.
nice we don't do like a full detail, like, in there with Q-tips and, steam cleaning carpets,
No.
but it comes out looking, a lot of people, wow, it looks better than when it came in. It looks
Yeah.
brand new again, so those are the nice little touches, that we do too, that a lot of other shops, don't do.
Yes, I love that. The key message here is personalization, communication, transparency around what customer rights exist
Right.
and explaining to them kind of that process, taking them on the journey. I hope you guys get that vote. I know you're getting
I
people.
know, right?
I hope you
I
guys win it.
the
Yeah.
shop who won last year, there's only two, I would say, production shops. And there's
Right.
there's a few little tiny shops that, that are in Martinez, but there's only two that kind of do a bigger volume, which is myself and Martinez Auto Body. Just gave him a little plug. But
Oh,
I love Gary. Gary is the owner there, and we collaborate a lot.
yes.
So it'll be between he and I, and he won last year, so
I
we
love
always
it.
give each other crap about it.
And that's a great segue to my next question. You said he and you're a she, right?
That,
In a male dominated industry, what are the have you had to overcome any challenges being a female in a male dominated industry?
I'm going to be honest. If I personally, not really.
I love
I,
that.
I mean, I know that, but I don't make it an option. You know what I mean?
It's not an
I
issue
don't
for you.
like being
You're
the
just a
victim, and I
person.
hate saying, "Oh, because I'm a woman, this is why I." No, I fully believe that I am where I am, not because of my gender,
Love that.
because it's because I work my ass off, to be there, and I think that comes through to people when I speak to them, whether it be a customer or a peer, or someone in the insurance industry, and maybe there's been some snide remarks made, or just kind of under the collar kind of,
Yeah.
innuendos, because I am a woman, but I bite hard back. So
That's it.
I don't let it bother me,
I love
so
that.
it's there could have been some times that happened, but they quickly kind of turn after I snap back. Um,
Maybe there's instant regret.
I mean, I'm just knowledgeable in my industry.
Yes.
I've been in it for so long. I think I surprise people when I start, and I don't come off and, oh, well, this, use these big terms and this,
Yes.
that. And I think
Yes.
that, I break it down for people to understand. One
Yeah.
of the big things, like with when you are writing an estimate or talking to a person about their car repairs, is breaking it down in terms that hopefully they understand. So when I do start leading them through that, they kind of step back and go, oh, she really knows what she's talking about.
Yes.
So knowledge is power,
Oh yeah.
and but experience is, is even better. So, I personally have not, I have a funny story. I will say that,
Do
um,
tell.
yeah, that has to do with that. So when I was early in my estimating days, when I worked for Haas Import Auto Body, that's the shop that I worked for before. I don't know, maybe in my early 20s. And an older gentleman came in, and it was just me in the office. And he said, oh, I'd like to get an estimate. I said, okay, I'll be right with you, sir. He goes, no, I need a man to come and write my estimate.
Oh
I go,
wow.
oh, we're fresh out of men today. And, and he
Wow.
goes, he was like, well, so you're going to write it? I said, I can try. And I'm just,
So funny.
just messing with them.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he's like, okay, whatever. So I go out there and I write the estimate, and I'm talking to him. I'm explaining to him, this is what needs to be done, blah, blah, blah. So by the end of the conversation, he looks at me and he goes, you know, you're all right. I guess you do know what you're doing. I go, oh, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And I just thought it was funny.
Playing
Yes,
the
I could
yeah.
have been offended and, cried or whatever, but I just
Yes.
thought it was funny because at least he acknowledged that,
Yes. You knew
I did
your
know what I
stuff.
was doing. But that's really the only time someone outrightly said it.
Yeah. And I mean, that happens in the construction industry as well,
Yeah,
where
I'm
you've
sure.
got women in the construction. And like you said, yes, you have to just forget about the fact that you're a female and just get
Yeah,
out there and know your worth and stand your ground. And you've done the work, right? You've put the work in. And that's where your foundations lie. Just
right.
basically what
Confident with it.
your confidence, exactly what you've been able to build over the years, and you just got to stand strong on those, on those pillars that you've built.
Right.
um that's such a cool story to hear, because in the construction industry, same thing.
Yeah.
I've we've renovated our house and we've built a
Yeah.
number of homes, and the guys there, I mean, you know what? They're used to seeing each other, right?
Hmm.
And it can be a bit jarring for men to see women in front of them having to speak their jargon and use their language and all that sort of stuff. But in the end, we need more people, more women to step up
Right.
in those industries, because you're proving, as we speak, you're proving that women can very well operate in this industry regardless of, your gender and your background and all
Right.
that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Super cool. I want to go into kind of your personal growth, your cultural identity. Has your Because you're obviously part Samoan, which is amazing. Has your Samoan heritage, or maybe your values or your upbringing, kind of shaped the way that sort of operate today and your views? Were there any kind of teachings from your upbringing and that sort of stuff that did any of that kind of come through, in who you are today operating as a business owner?
Yes. So one is, it's kind of the opposite, honestly.
Okay.
It, I mean, as you know, I mean, the whole reason why you're doing this show, I imagine, is to inspire, people of our culture, of our background, to get out there, and make something of yourself.
Yes.
And I think we need a whole lot more of that. There's not enough of it. And that drove me, because I always wanted to be successful. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I mean, as a kid, I just knew that I was always kind of different, obviously.
Yes.
But I just always wanted more.
Yes.
And and I think that, we didn't grow up rich by any means. Um, so I wanted the opposite. And not to be rich, but I wanted to be comfortable. I didn't want to have to worry about bills, and I didn't want to have to worry about, our next meal or whatever. That wasn't going to be me.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like in contradiction of what the norm was.
Yes.
I wanted to be, successful. I wanted to have, what my mom didn't have, and I wanted to be able to, to hopefully someday provide her with,
Yeah.
what, she didn't have. Or and that really kind of drove me, but her determination too, my mom,
Yeah.
of, being a single mom. And there's a lot that comes with that, with, she
Yeah.
four kids, until she, married Nick. And that was hard on her. So, seeing her determination and just never giving up, like, you didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
You had to make it work, and you had to make sure there was food on the table and the bills are paid, and whatever you
Yes.
had to do, she did. And, and that kind of, or it really did, shape me too. Uh,
Yeah.
and in terms of, culture, I think that's kind of my culture at my shop is, we're family.
Yes.
And and that it's it's kind of what, keeps us going too. Is And I've had other family that worked for me, but so it's going to be the right kind of family. But
Yeah, absolutely.
we also have that family type of, feeling when people come in.
Yes.
And it's everybody. It's parts drivers. It's, everybody loves us. I'm not going to lie. It's a
Yes.
great place to come in to work, because it's a good vibe. And, and that is our culture.
Yes.
It's, hey, we're welcoming, and that's how I like it. I mean, I think it's the best combination. If you're a hard worker and you love people, you just want to make people happy, put it on a bigger scale.
Yes. So
There's,
true.
get paid for that. And whatever
100%.
your passion is, make it a business. And
Yes.
I will say this: cars is not my passion. It's so funny. I'm like, I don't even like cars. I don't go to car shows.
Really?
I,
That's
I want nothing to do with cars itself. However, I love people, and I like I like making people happy. I like fighting for people.
Yes.
I don't like when people are being taken advantage of.
Yes.
And I like giving good advice, and I just like helping people.
Yes.
And it's the service industry. So whatever it is, doesn't I don't think it matters what you get into, as long as you, if that's what you're wanting to do, if you like to help people, then it's service. There's all kinds of industries, that you have service, or that you service people in.
Mm.
So it's people.
Yeah.
And in our culture, is it's all about people and helping each other, and stem off from that. Take whatever
Yes.
it is that you do know, and it's the person itself. If a lot of people say, I'm the face of the shop.
Yeah.
um, I go out and I get accounts because they love me.
Yes.
But it transcends to the shop because everybody else has that same culture too.
Yes. Yes.
So, it's just going out there and just literally, the if you build it, they will come.
Yes.
That's what I've been doing for 4 years.
I love
It's
that.
like, okay, I'm just here, and I'm just gonna take a leap, and let's do it and see what
And
happens.
you're the
And
reason why, and you're the reason why I have you on my show. You're the reason why I've been chasing you for so long, because our heritage, and not just our heritage, but everyone around the world, need to be able to listen to your story and hear about, kind of how you got to where you are. Are you on tabloids, kind of that famous person? No, absolutely not. But you're where you want to be, that's, and you only have one life to live, right? Like that's, why not live it in a way that allows you to test everything about what you can give the world?
no regrets.
No regrets, 100%. So, what do you? I guess if I think about the business now, what do you kind of wish you knew before taking over the business? You've done so much. Is there anything that, if you kind of look back up in your time before taking over the business, what do you wish you knew beforehand? Is there anything left?
No, anything that I wish I knew, because you don't know till you know,
Yeah.
right? And I think that you have to go through those motions in order to understand it, and have it stick.
Yes.
Because if you're just told things, sometimes it's like, okay, well, yeah, hopefully I remember it. But if you actually live through it, maybe you get stung, and maybe you fail, and you're going to remember it next time. So I think you have to go through those trials and tribulations
Yes.
and successes and failures, because it all shapes everything. So I don't really regret anything. I always say that I wish I had, my only regret is I wish I had done it sooner, because I feel like I got into it late in the game.
Yes.
I was in my 50s, when I bought a shop, or at 50, actually, I
Yes.
was 50. And, a lot of business owners, start way earlier. But when I look back, the timing was actually perfect, because Nico had just graduated. He was at, in so or he was he did he just graduate?
Maybe recently graduated.
Yeah.
I
He's
mean,
either a senior or just graduated. And before, he and Zach, played sports their whole lives.
yes.
And I was able to be there,
Yeah.
and for their milestones and whatever it is that they did. I was able to be there. I did my normal 9 to 5 job, had my weekends free,
Yeah.
so I was able to be there for my kids.
Yeah.
Once I knew that, once I did have my own business, that I wouldn't have the time to spend for my kids.
Yes.
So the timing actually ended up working out pretty perfect.
Yeah, that's true. It allowed you to have your family, raise your family, and do all the things that are super important for your
Mhm.
kids and yourself and your partner, because that might have all fallen down if you'd taken on the business outside of COVID.
Right. It's stressful. So yeah, I'm glad I didn't have, little ones to worry about, during this time.
Yeah, that's
I don't
right.
think people do it.
Yeah, exactly. So, in a sense, even though you wish you'd started earlier, it's probably a good thing that you'd
Yeah.
waited a little longer. And that's great insight to those who actually want to start a family and think about, oh, how do I run a business with a young family? Maybe the priority is to get your young family through, and then,
Right.
but in the background, maybe think about start planning and setting goals towards your time frame of,
Absolutely.
if
Yeah.
my child
Yeah.
when my child turns 17 or 18, that's the point at which I'm going to execute on the
Hmm.
plan that I want to run my business. If I'm 50 or 49, that's fine. um if it makes you feel better, Ray Kroc set McDonald's up at 55, so
Oh, really?
you're in your
Awesome.
uh, yeah, you're in your second coming, which is apparently
Yeah.
there are two.
Yeah.
You're in your
Yeah.
second one. Well, apparently
Right.
that's what I'm told.
Right.
So we've talked about all things hard work and everything lead up to Advanced Auto Body. What do you like to do to unwind? I mean, that's so much more important. I mean, the important things to being able to run a business and show up for your business is also about looking after yourself and your mental health. What are the sorts of things, or physical well-being or whatever? Are you at a point where you can start unwinding and
Now I am.
yes.
Now I am. I mean, just recently, it's been the focus has been on the business for as long as I've had the business,
Yeah.
and it's even when I'm not at work, I'm still working, you just never turn off.
Yes.
Uh, so, Jeff kind of jokes around because I tell him, oh, I don't want to work today or whatever. And he's like, you're lying. You love it. Or if I complain about something, he's like, you wouldn't do anything else.
Yes.
And it's true, and I'll just open up my laptop and then whatever it is, if whatever it is that has something to do with the business, like it never turns off. If you get a Google review or if you get an email, it's like, oh, let me look at it, and
Yes.
I can't help myself. So, but we during those times, where it was just kind of Jeff and I, uh, running things, and the few people that I did have, we loved our little getaways of like running up to Reno to the pepper mill,
Yeah.
and we love our spa and gambling.
I love that.
It's just a little, it's a quick little, even one day, sometimes we'll go for a day, or just for the weekend.
Yes.
I do love the outdoors. I just haven't had a chance to even do that. So today was actually great because I was able to walk around in downtown Concord and
Love it.
just kind of take in, like, I don't know, the trees and the weather and
Yes.
walking. And,
Fresh air.
it was, yeah, it was very simple, but like a lot of the weight is off, and just being able to do something simple like that was really nice.
Yeah, and I imagine that's good for your mental health to be able to get outside and enjoy the outdoors. A
Yeah,
really good
yeah,
way to sort of refresh your thinking and kind of open your eyes up to the rest of the world, just to give you that escape. Yeah.
yeah, right, right.
I was once accused of being a machine because I feel like I'm the same as you. I never turn off. You're
Mhm.
always thinking about the next step or the current thing that's happening right now, and then you're thinking about marketing and all this other stuff. You really don't actually switch off, but you have to. Right? It's something you
Yeah,
have to force yourself to do it.
yeah,
It's
yeah. It's not very often that I, kind of make myself,
yeah.
because yeah, even when you try and switch off your mind, still, there was many a nights where I just literally could not sleep because I
Yes.
couldn't turn my mind off.
Yes. Yeah, that might have to be another goal set for you. The how do
Yeah,
I how
I
do I
know, I know. It's the perks of owning a business,
Yes.
but
And you wouldn't have it any other way, would you?
I was just gonna say that.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of people say it that, once you do have your own business, it's really hard to go back and work for somebody else.
right.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That level of independence. And I imagine, yeah, that the fact that you own something and that it all sits
Mhm.
on your shoulders is a feeling that is a really great feeling. One day I'll
Yeah.
get there. Um, so
You're pretty damn successful.
uh I don't know. You're I feel like we're the same. We're sort of kindred spirits in the sense that you kind of feel like you never really get enough of,
Yeah.
the stuff that you really want to get to.
Yeah.
Um and yeah, maybe one day also I'll feel comfortable and not have to run my mind every night and not get any more than, geez, I'm trying to get 7 hours
Right.
sleep a night, but it seems to average around 5.
Yeah. Yeah. That's same here.
if I'm
I also think though that you just made me think of something that maybe that's why we have that drive.
Yeah.
Like if it's never enough, or if it's just enough, are you going to stop? That's it. Okay, I'm good right here. you
Yeah,
know, you're you're not going to continue to succeed if you have that mentality, right?
that's right.
So if you hey, I got to keep going, I want to do this next. I want to do this next, that's going to happen because you have that mindset. But
Yes.
if kind of comfortable in that spot of, yeah, I'm good right here, then guess where you're going to be.
Yeah,
Right.
100%. And one of the things that I love about the position you're actually in, because my money gets made in investments and kind of that passive income, but your money gets made in the hard work and running a business, is that you are contributing to the economy. You're the
Right.
reason you're the reason why the world turns, right? It's a
Yeah.
small to medium enterprises like yourself that actually is the reason why our economy thrives. You're the reason why we're productive in the country. You're the reason why people wake up, sort of wake up in the morning and have to go and get a job. Without people like yourself. And another compelling reason for why we encourage all Pacific Islanders and Polynesians to think about going out there and sort of pushing yourself is the contribution you make to the economy, and the bigger picture around the world. Is pretty incredible place to want to be. So
Yeah.
with that, what next for Autobody? Like, do you guys look at tech? The rise of things like GPT, not the rise because Chat GPT. I don't know if you're aware, OpenAI. All of that's been
Yeah.
around. There's lots of technology out there that kind of helps us to, take our business to the next level. Like, is that something you guys are thinking about? What's next for?
It's already there. So in our industry, there's actually, if you go to my website,
Yeah,
www.advance-autobody.com,
love that.
um, you can get a virtual instant estimate through AI.
Amazing.
Yeah. So it's a double-edged sword in for body shops, and I think for insurance companies too.
Is it a test and learn at the moment? Would you say like it's still finessing?
No, it's out there. The reason why it could be scary because I you're eliminating another position.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Because I have heard that one of the bigger shops in the area is using that in place of some lower level estimators.
right.
So, because imagine if you have an app or just you go to somebody's website, it guides you through what photos to take.
Mm-hmm.
The technology finds the damage,
Mm-hmm.
and everything is in the database of when you replace a door or when you repair a door, all the parts that need to come off, everything that needs to be painted, it's already in there,
Yes.
automatically loaded. So, you're eliminating some positions.
Yes.
And as far as IA with us, AI,
AI. Yep.
independent appraiser is in our world, so I got that mixed up. But AI, um, I think it's helpful for us
Mm-hmm.
because it's just an added hand.
Yes.
Where if the estimators are busy, it's they can pull up their app and it'll generate an an estimate just to start, and then the estimator finishes it. So I think it's helpful for that, and I think it's helpful for customers who go online and just want to get a rough estimate, because people have no idea how
Mm.
much repairs are.
Yeah.
It's a lot more than people think.
Yes.
But they can get that instant estimate of, oh, I didn't realize I should probably do an insurance claim,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or, oh, that's not so bad. And, maybe I don't have to do an insurance claim.
Yeah.
So I like it for that reason. I don't like that some shops are using it, more than a tool. It's depleting positions.
Yes.
So, that kind of sucks,
Mm-hmm.
for those guys, but, for us, I think it's great. Our challenge really is, these EVs that aren't really a challenge for us just yet. We do work on, electric vehicles,
Mm-hmm.
like with Tesla, we don't really work on them.
Mm-hmm.
Because one, you have to be certified through Tesla if you do any structural,
Yeah.
repairs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the only reason why we don't work on it. Their parts just suck as far
Yeah.
as getting them. It's so proprietary. Like
Wow.
you can't call up a parts department and buy a part.
Yeah.
It's send an email,
They're not
you'll
readily
get the bill
available.
back. Yep, and then we'll let you know when it's here. It's going to be at least 2 weeks.
Oh
Like
my
who
God.
has time for that?
Wow.
So it's the technology in the cars, that always evolves.
Yes.
So training is important,
Yeah.
so we have to keep up on our training,
Right.
um, from the office to the techs. And, I think that's more as far as technology goes, that I try to stay, on top of.
Yes.
Um, AI, I don't know what other direction, it would be going, in the industry itself, because you think about the techs and like how would they be replaced?
Mm.
Uh, Robots already put cars together, but I
Mm-hmm.
mean, as far as repairing a car, hopefully not.
Yes.
Painting, same thing, there are some robotic, painters, uh, which is kind of scary, but for us, if we just keep plugging along, doing our thing the way we have been doing it, and just keeping up with technology,
Yes.
um, we'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe the automation and the AI might be helpful in I mean, in banking, we're always looking at what automation, artificial intelligence can do from an
Hmm.
efficiency perspective in terms of, how do we get our paperwork done, all the mundane
Yeah.
tasks that
Yeah.
are,
Yeah. I think
running.
it's definitely a great tool. I just
It's not one that we should be using to replace people.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. People are
That's
always
yeah.
going to be needed. Yeah.
Right.
100%. Um, that interview and the conversation that we've just had has been such an incredible insight into your world, into what people can start to learn and think about, as they're coming out of school, what your customers have understood about you and the brains trust behind you and your team in order to operate your shop has just been such an incredible conversation. And I want to say a huge thanks to you for sitting down and talking to Thirsty Coconut.
Course. Thank you for everything. It's kind of nice to reflect on the things that we talked about, things that
Yes.
I kind of forgot about.
Yeah, it's always good to
Not anymore.
feels a bit like this is your live session.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's like, oh yeah, I remember how I did that.
Amazing, amazing.
Great.
So for all those thirsty coconuts out there that are watching, get onto the website. You will not be disappointed in going into Advanced Auto Body Shop. They are a one and done, hands down, the best in the business in the California Martinez area.